All right, we are live again with a triumphant return of Gavin Stone. Gavin the Stone, who is a top 10 global guru, body language expert. And we're bringing into this a little bit of his other career. I don't know if he's proud of it, but Gavin worked in the intelligence area, department. What did you exactly do, Gavin?
Ooh, I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you that I worked in the intelligence industry. Worked in security intelligence for the government for best part of 20 years, and there was about 13 of that working in the field, and then about 7 of that actually training operatives to go into the field in areas from everything from covert surveillance to human intelligence gathering and all manner of other related subjects and aspects.
Okay, so this is perfect for Gavin because of his background, etc. We're covering the gentleman known as Keir Starmer, who is the current Prime Minister of Great Britain.
On behalf of the government, Happy New Year. Here's to a year of changing Britain for the better.
And well, Keir seems to be having some issues lately. He seems to have come up on the radar of one Elon Musk about his responses to some crimes that are going on in England that involve younger people. I can't go into complete verbiage. I have to tap dance a little bit as I'm talking. But Keir Starmer, from what I understand, not only is the current prime minister, and according to Elon Musk, not doing anything about what are known as grooming gangs, but also was in charge of the prosecution of some absolutely proven crimes that did happen. And people are claiming that, yes, he did prosecute some, but he deliberately let many others go away through either incompetence or deliberation. Is that a fair statement, Gavin?
I'd say that's more than fair. And just to add to that as well, there are many instances where he bragged about, oh well, I've done more than anybody else, and we've prosecuted more since I was doing this job. And what I'd like to point out is some of those prosecutions have just been a short probation period or very, very lenient sentences on the people involved in comparison to the crimes that were committed. So, but we'll go a little bit deeper into it as we go a little bit further and explore more. But I just want to kind of put that point out there.
Okay, now later on, we're going to go over. You sent me a picture of something. So later in this conversation, I want to go over what this picture is, what it actually means, and have you explain it to me because I just don't get it. But anyway, what we're covering right now is Keir Starmer is so rattled, in my opinion, by the onslaught from Elon Musk that he spent a chunk of his time when he was visiting the NIH and kind of talking about their mission and what's going on, sort of a normal, I guess, press conference starting out the year with the medical field, that he's having to address what is going on with Elon Musk. And I brought Gavin on to get his opinion, not only, for the body language, but culturally speaking and thinking in terms of English, Great Britain. You guys are different than us. So here we go. Going to look at this. I'm assuming you sent me a bunch of clips. Now, in fairness, I found where he talked about it. I have not watched any of this myself. So this is the first time for me. I'm getting to learn as I go with Gavin. I'll probably make some dumb observations on the way. I'm known to do that. But I'm guessing this first clip or two are these baseline clips?
A little bit of, baseline and just explaining about like kind of what's going on, what's happening, and the kind of person he is. And we'll explore a little bit about Keir Starmer himself.
Okay. And I believe here he's being introduced.
That's right.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Arlene, and thank you to all the staff here. We've had a really uplifting morning just looking at the work that you're doing. It's absolutely inspirational. It's exactly what we want. And I see some of the colleagues here behind me who I was talking to this morning. You should all be really so proud of what you're doing. We're really proud of it. So thank you very much. And a happy new year to...
I see some good presentation skills there. Very concise, solid movements. He's obviously a polished public speaker.
Oh yeah, and everything about that was exceptionally well crafted, like really well crafted, right down to Arlene, bless her, who's come on and introduced the Prime Minister. That was not accidental. It's been picked that she's going to be the one who, the working class. Here's me amongst the working class, as it were, and that has extended with things like the sleeves rolled up on his shirt to show, look at me, I'm a manual worker, I'm one of us. No watch, he's lost the Tissot PRX Powermatic that is a few grand's worth or whatever that he normally wears. That's gone. And the colour of the white shirt. Normally with politicians, when they're wearing a white shirt, if they're going down the power play route, they'll wear a nice bright red tie. Look at me, I'm the power, the big power tie. What he's done here, he's worn a very nice subtle blue tie. He can't wear a blue shirt because what's happening is here he's trying to send a little bit of a message to differentiate himself from the staff. All the NHS staff generally wear different colours of blue scrubs. And the reason for this, the reason normally he would have probably worn a blue shirt in this instance, a very pale blue shirt, would have been to show, look, blue collar worker, I'm amongst the working class, as it were. Because he couldn't do that, he's had to wear a blue tie. So, and the reason for that is basically psychology dictates that blue is a colour for trust. Blue is associated with trust. That's why a lot of the NHS workers, if you look at their scrubs, are all varying shades of blue depending on their rank within the NHS. And as you go up and up and up, they actually go to red at the towards the top, and that goes back to your power. Like the red tie, power tie kind of thing. So everything there that has been done, and that very little introduction, I'm just going to quickly say the whole thing is a message to kind of say, look at me, I'm one of you guys, I'm with you, I'm on your side. Very well done, but we'll go into more about Keir and how what's on the surface isn't necessarily the same as what's going on underneath.
I also thought that the blue and even the red might have been to help with stain situations in terms of especially blood. If you're seeing somebody medical and they've dealt with any kind of blood and they're wearing a white smock and there's blood, it would probably be really obvious or standing out, or other things could be confused with it quickly, whereas the blue and the red might be a little more subtle.
Yeah, so it's a mixture of all sorts. So yes, it is more subtle on the blue. Doesn't look as bad as when if they were wearing white scrubs. But what you've got to look at, if they wanted to hide it completely, they could just wear black scrubs or red scrubs or whatever the case may be, dark red. So it does help, and it stops amplifying any blood stains and blood spills and that kind of thing. The majority of them are wearing blue because of the fact that it is a nice calming colour. I think in the US, don't they in surgery mostly wear like a light green?
Yeah, I don't know, but blue, green. I'm to be
forthright, they're all calming.
I'm partially colorblind, and I struggle with the blue-green shades. So okay. Teal, to me, I get confused if it's green or blue to give people understanding of my vision.
But they're all calming colours, and it's the same as hospitals themselves generally, that the wards are generally calming colours and that kind of thing. They did try an experiment once with prisoners where they found, hot pink. It was like a real hot pink would calm them down instantly and quicker, but long term had worse ramifications.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in Arizona, he made them wear pink.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And that was seen almost as a bullying type of scenario, but very interesting. All right, so we'll continue.
I hope you had a refreshing Christmas break. I do recognise and realise that for many people in the NHS, the words Christmas and break don't very often actually go very well together. So before I say anything else, can I just say to all of you, and through you to all your colleagues who work in the NHS, thank you. Thank you to your service to our country and for the countless lives that you save and change every single day. A massive thank you to you.
He looks very comfortable there.
Yeah. So, and that was the reason for this little clip here. Is you've seen how polished he is. There's no stuttering. There's no Starmer, don't you?
Hey, is that a slip?
Oops. So yeah, but it is nice and kind of polished. There's no roughness around it, and it's very well presented. And we're going to see how that changes a little bit later on. There's no there's no there's no gaps, there's no kind of clunky speech at all. So yeah, we've covered that, and also what he's done here, he's done this recognition and motivational speech to kind of win the room here and get everybody on side. Look at you, well done, you're also great, and so. But now we're going to get into the meat and bones of it, because this is where we're going to move forward a little bit after he's kind of patted the room on the back, as it were, to where Elon Musk comes in, and he has a bit of a Q&A session, and Elon Musk is brought up, and he's now going to the point where he's addressing the issue, and I'm using the word issue, of Elon Musk being a fly in his ointment.
Now, just to point out, in my personal opinion, being a polished speaker who presents well, there's nothing wrong with it. That's actually good. I appreciate somebody who is excellent at their craft. So we are not, I don't want to speak for Gavin, but I don't feel like we are criticizing him for being a polished, good presenter. It's just an observation that he's a very talented individual from what I'm seeing, at least.
The question of Elon Musk, look, I think most people are more interested in what's going to happen to the NHS, frankly, than what's happening on.
He looks less comfortable there, and that seemed like a block immediately.
So there we've had a complete change. He's become very withdrawn, very kind of defensive, and a different posture altogether. He's stuttering a little bit. He's not happy with the fact that this is going on. So you can see the differences, and this is why we played that original clip first, to show how he was to how he is when he's talking about different subjects. So like you say, we're not bullying him, we're not picking on him, we're not kind of pointing out polished speakers are bad or anything like that. It's just to be able to compare. It's purely for comparative purposes. What I did note here is the way he kind of tried to put a spin on this. So when he's turned around here and he said, people are more concerned about what's going on with the NHS than what's going on Twitter. And this is what really kind of annoyed me. And I try not to let my emotions get the better of me when this kind of thing. But no, we're not, or the people in question are not concerned about what's going on Twitter. What they're concerned about is children and crime and the rings that are all attached to you and what's going on and what's happening in this country that's not being dealt with accordingly. That's what they're concerned about, not Twitter, the crime. and there's a big difference, and he tries to play it down like, oh yeah, somebody's done a tweet somewhere. Well, no, it's not about somebody's done a tweet somewhere. It's about somebody's revealing and shining a spotlight on all the nasties that are happening that you're trying to shove under the carpet.
But that's kind of leaning into statement analysis, correct? Where he is, he's changing the framing by saying nobody cares what's going on Twitter. Well, technically, yes, that was on X or Twitter that those comments were made, but he's not acknowledging the content. He's attacking the platform, and he can truthfully say, oh, these things are on X, without actually addressing those things.
Exactly. And of course, this is he's not at this point personally retaliated or given a rebuttal to Elon Musk. He's just talked about the platform. He's not talked about Elon Musk's actual words or accusations or statements. What he's talked about is, people aren't interested in what's going on in Twitter. Us, the real people, we want to know what's going on with the NHS. So he's really trying to, like you say, reframe it and change the whole perspective of it entirely. And that, to me, is kind of annoying, because he's downplaying something that, not only just in my opinion, but in the majority of people's opinion, is very, very serious and needs addressing, sooner rather than later.
this leader of the opposition, a former Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Speaker. So he spent most of his time prosecuting journalists and failing to prosecute Jimmy Savile, as far as I can make out, Mr. Speaker.
Now, a question. The first thing I noticed is that stance, that turn, and that pullback, which appeared to me to be almost pugilistic, or like a kind of like a half a drawback, like he's ready to fight in a way, but not obviously going completely there. But that seemed like a closing and a protective gesture. Did I read too much into that?
Not too much. However, what I will state is we can only see half of the room here. And I know this is a Q&A and there are different news reporters dotted around in the room. There's half a possibility that the person who's asked the question is over towards the left, so he's turned that way to face them and answer their question. At the same time, however, he didn't necessarily need to turn his entire body and pull his arm up. He could have carried on gripping the podium like he was before and turned his head to talk to them, and job done. So there is a little bit of leeway as to why he may have angled his body slightly. Again, I can't see, so I don't know. So I can't say to you, yes, he's turned to answer that person that was over there. I don't know. I'm just saying that could be what it is down to. So, we'll just have to play on and see what else comes up.
A really important question that's been in the news for the last few days. I am going to, with permission, just answer it quite fully.
So the reason I put that in is I wanted to know permission from who? I am, with permission, going to answer it quite fully. Well, he's the Prime Minister of the UK. Who does he need permission from to answer a question that has just been asked?
Well, that, again, back to statement analysis, seemed to me spacing language. Honestly, I feel that we should, which is just adding distance between me and the statement as I'm trying to calculate what my response is. The with permission, to me, is buying time while he's calculating, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's just fluff. That's all it is. It's kind of, it's like if you asked me a question and said, Gavin, what were you doing last night? And I said, right, I am taking your question seriously, Eric, about what I did last night, and I'm going to think about it, and with permission, going to answer your question fully. Well, it's not an answer, is it? It's a load of waffle that fills the gap and, like you say, allows time to think and come up with what you're going to say on this subject. And that's pretty much what he's done here.
And can I also point out that, in my opinion, he's had all night to think about it. He knew about these comments before he came into the room. This is him fully prepared, I would think, to answer, because I'm sure he read the tweets or he had somebody read it to him. He's probably formulated an answer with his staff or himself or whatever it is. So the fact that this spacing still exists, to me, it shows that it's got to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I know the guy who used to write the what's known as the PDB, which is the President's Daily Brief, and it's a bit like, if you, for want of a better word, a bit like a physical printed newsletter that lets the President of the USA and all the kind of necessary people in the White House know what's going on in almost like a bullet point form, like I say, very much like a newsletter. The Prime Minister here has a very similar thing. I'm not going to go into all the details, but they are kept aware of everything that's going on in bullet point form, and anything that they think or believe is going to be addressed or brought up or spoken about is pretty much, they are told, make this a priority to have a response ready for this, and that's how it works. So again, yeah, you're all right. He would have known, even if he didn't personally read them, he would have been aware of them.
Right, that the richest guy in the world with the farthest reaching platform in terms of news in the world, that has been picked up by almost all publications around the world, that something could come up.
Yeah, stands a chance, doesn't it, really?
It is a really important set of issues. And let me start with this. Child sexual exploitation is utterly sickening.
Okay, so there's a reason this is done. And what's happening here, again, he's trying to win favour with people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not much body language going on, but it is rhythmic with his words.
It's
and
a
everything
rhetorical
else.
device.
Yeah, and this is a way of I'm sure you've seen it done and heard it done. There's plenty of examples of it in the world where people will give, 1, 2, or 3 factual statements and then follow up with something that is either opinion based or work on being able to allude to a particular thing. And because you've previously mentioned things that are factually based, you put it in the same category. So therefore, if I were to turn around and say, Eric, you and I have been friends for many years. Eric, you've done lots for me in the past. And Eric, we share a lot of content and pictures and things online. I believe that I know that. And I come up with something X, Y, and Z. It'll be in the same category, and therefore it'll be by yourself, kind of putting that kind of, yes, that's right. So therefore, this must be right as well. I hope that makes sense. I think I did a poor job.
Well, maybe I'm thinking. I'm thinking in terms of sales and influence.
Yeah,
and that when he does that, like Gavin, I don't know, say something to me like, this bad thing is going on.
This awful case of exploitation is going on.
Gavin, you're right. Exploitation is sickening. It bothers me to the core. Okay, so now, Gavin, don't you feel acknowledged?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you feel like I have answered your feeling? I haven't necessarily answered your question. Mm-hmm. I haven't necessarily addressed the particular claim, but have I not addressed your feeling about the situation? And I believe that's what he's doing here.
Yeah, he's kind of pretty much getting everybody on side, saying, yes, you're right. This is a problem, and when we're all in this together, he's trying to say, I'm in the same camp as you. I'm there and feel exactly the same about it as you lot do. But whether he does or not remains to be seen. Let's go on a little bit further.
And for many, many years, too many victims have been completely let down by perverse ideas about community relations.
So who let them down?
Well, let me think. Because from 2008 to 2013, he was the Director of Public Prosecutions for the Crown Prosecution Service. In fact, he got a knighthood for it in 2014. So, who actually let them down, Mr. Starmer?
It reminds me of a U.S. congressperson saying, I'm going to go back there and tell those SOBs that we're not taking it anymore. Well, aren't you one of those SOBs?
So yeah, that was literally a bit of a verbal disaster on his behalf with regards of he has just told them how incompetent he is by saying for many, many, many years you've been let down, and he also uses something along the lines of words like by ideology or something like that. I can't remember what it was, or but ideas, perverse ideas. Well, no, they weren't let down by perverse ideas. They were let down by you. They were let down by the system. They were let down by corruption and many other things that has let them down. And despite your claims, it doesn't look like too much has been done about it, because it's actually not just still going on, but it's actually growing. So, bit of a problem there, Keir.
By the idea that institutions must be protected above all else. And they've not been listened to, and they've not been.
So, wow. I mean, this is called confession through projection.
Yeah.
Because he's saying, it's like they're not, you were the institution. You are literally saying exactly what happened and forgetting, you've reassigned yourself. Oh, that's not me. That's them.
Yeah. Which is like kind of, now he's not doing that job anymore. And he's like, yeah, but I'm Prime Minister now. So that's them doing that. And it's like, yes, but at the time of all this happening, it was you, and it was your job, and you were the director, and you were in charge of the Crown Prosecution Service and making this happen. So you can't all of a sudden change from that job to this job and say, oh, yeah, it's all their fault.
We haven't even gotten into body language yet.
I know, yeah. And I kind of, the reason I haven't gotten too much into body language with this is because there is so much that's been said verbally that you can kind of just work out from what's been said without the need to have it reinforced with over the top with body language. It's kind of there on display for you.
Which this is me personally, I actually kind of prefer, because with body language, no matter how deep you get into it or whatever else, there's always some uncertainty. There's always questions about it. It's always an interpretation. But if you could just literally take things like facts, like you're talking about something going on with an agency. Yes. Okay. Were you in charge of said agency? Yes. No body language. This is just facts. And I do believe personally that facts are always the strongest things that we can deal with, and everything down the line can help enhance, or they're tools to get you to try to find the facts. But the facts are there. Hammer the facts.
Exactly. And this is kind of where Elon Musk is going with some of the things he's said. Some of the accusations that have been made are based on facts and factual events. And of course, later on, we'll come across some of the things that Keir Starmer says in response to that. And he kind of almost shrouds it with kind of, baseless accusations, so to speak. So, but the truth of the matter is, no matter which way he tries to dress this up, and no matter which way he tries to talk himself out of this situation, the truth is he was in charge of the Crown Prosecution Service when this was all going on. So, and like I say, it's not like it's been stopped. It's still going on and has even increased. It's got worse.
According to evidence out there, there are some who deny it. There's some who say that it's fine. From what I understand, there were other people under fire from Elon Musk. I'm not going to bring their names up because I don't feel like I want to single out one person who's talking that we're looking at, but there are other people who have been named in public that Elon has criticized as well, saying, you aren't doing anything about this.
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing anything about this?
And when I was chief prosecutor for 5 years, I
saw a little bit of a tongue jut there.
Yeah, and again here, this is kind of we missed the last off the clip here, where he said, when I was chief prosecutor for 5 years, I tackled this head on. Well, did he?
Because I could see what was happening. And that's why I reopened cases that had been closed and supposedly finished.
So yeah, let's ask here. He said himself, I could see what was happening. Now, you're on about confession through projection.
Mm-hmm.
What was happening? If he's all of a sudden gone to the position of director of the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, and he could see that people weren't being prosecuted, and he said he tackled it head on, what could he actually see that was happening? Because there was evidently something happening, because he just said I could see what was happening. And
well, there were charges.
Yeah.
If you tackled it, if you brought cases, I can't just say I brought a case against you and you would tell me, what are you charging me for, right? You can't just say I brought case. What case? What is the case? A suitcase? A briefcase?
Yep. So there's a lot that when he said, I could see what was happening, I think a lot of what was happening is still happening, and he's just basically focused on certain areas. And again, the kind of, I think the ratio of prosecutions isn't as it should be. And I think that the people concerned who are all being prosecuted, they should have been given a lot more, they should have been more heavily sentenced, in my opinion.
Okay. You know what? This is a good time. Let's go ahead and look at this picture here.
Why not? Let's chuck it in.
Okay. I know that guy on the left with that kid. What's the point, Gavin? I mean, you just sent me this picture of Jimmy Savile. I mean, saying the words name Jimmy Savile should be obvious to everyone, but what exactly am I looking at? Why did you send me this?
So this kind of clique, if you want to call it that, is a very, very, very tight-knit circle of people. And for those who don't know, Jimmy Savile is kind of the UK Jeffrey Epstein, as it were. And whereas Jeffrey Epstein was very good friends with Prince Andrew, Jimmy Savile was very good friends with the then Prince Charles, who is now King Charles, and this whole kind of clique of I'm going to choose my words carefully because of YouTube.
Very bad people.
Yes, let's just say very bad people. They're all kind of very connected in ways that allow them to get away with a lot more than they should. So this has been going on from well before Keir Starmer took office. This has gone on way after, from when he was a child, right up to the influence that Jimmy Savile has had on Keir Starmer and the connected rings and people around Keir Starmer. So I think that if we broaden...
So what are we looking at in that picture specifically?
So what we're looking at, that is Jimmy Savile and Keir Starmer as a little boy.
Oh.
And Jimmy Savile has been in Keir Starmer's life for quite some time in multiples of ways. So, and again, I'm not saying that, Jimmy Savile has necessarily abused Keir Starmer in any way. I do not know that. That's something I'm not privy to. But there has been connections with Keir Starmer and other people within these rings and within these people. So again, you've got to look at the fact that maybe if you look at the bigger picture here a little bit and you say, well, hang on a minute, why are there only certain groups being prosecuted? Why are these certain groups, getting very lenient sentences? Is there any kind of favours being pulled by other people, in this circle? And is he being kind of guided and played?
Okay, you told me a story about a cop you knew or a cop you knew another cop or something else. Can you share this story about Jimmy Savile to, I think, illustrate what we might be dealing with or what people were dealing with in that time?
So I have never said this publicly before, and I don't know whether I really should, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And this goes back many, many, many years to a young rookie cop who was working in London. And if you can imagine some of the rougher parts of London where we've got like the multi-story apartment blocks and it's kind of not the nicest of areas. And this rookie police officer spotted a Rolls Royce sitting in the parking lot at night with a man in the driver's seat and a girl in the passenger seat doing absolutely nothing. Nothing at all.
They're just sitting there?
Just sitting there. Not talking, not moving, just sitting there. And this cop is thinking something's not right. I don't get what's happening here. And he got a little bit closer and he tapped on the window of the Rolls Royce, and the driver wound the window down. So wound the window down, press the button and the window come down. It was a Rolls Royce, and the driver was none other than Jimmy Savile. And the police officer said to him, "What are you doing?" And the response was, "I'm waiting until midnight for her to turn 16, and now F off if you want to keep your job," and put the window back up. And that was way back before his tastes got younger, shall we say. And the worst of it was that this particular police officer went back to speak to his superiors and he told them what had happened, and his superiors said, no, it didn't. He said, it never happened. You're never going to speak about it again. If you want to carry on being a police officer, then there's never going to be a mention of it again. You're never going to talk about it to anybody, and that's it, and you'll forget about it. And if you're not silent, you will be silenced. And that was it.
Wow. All right. So now back to the man in question, Keir Starmer. Let's see the rest of this.
First major prosecution of an Asian grooming gang. In the particular case, it was in Rochdale, but it was the first of its kind. There were many that then followed that format.
So the use of the word Asian there was, in my opinion, very unusual. It's more of a British thing to apply Asian to people from
Pakistan and India are Asian for you, right?
Exactly, yeah. So
whereas here we think Chinese, Korean, Japanese. We think Far East versus Middle East,
Yeah, so
near Middle East.
it's a bit weird because I mean, when you think of the Asian continent, that's where you're going to be thinking of, kind of, China and and that kind of area.
Russia's in Asia.
Yeah, because you've got like the Eurasian mix, but when you go to kind of, you look at India and Pakistan and whatever else, it's not necessarily what you would automatically go to by default when you're thinking about the Asian continent. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird British thing to refer to kind of Indians, Pakistans, and sometimes certain Middle Eastern countries as Asian. So yeah, just to clarify any potential confusion there. There was a particular word that he missed out and doesn't mention at any point during this entire speech, conversation, or anything else, and that is a word beginning with M. And I'm not going to say it because I think that YouTube would probably pick up on it and start, creating problems.
Gavin's referring to a religion, but I'm guessing, right?
Yeah,
are you
that's
referring
right, yeah.
to a particular religion? But I do want to say that I think the scope of this could be potentially wider than just said religion. And
for sure.
That, I don't think that Jimmy Savile practiced any religion outside of standard British Christianity, whatever. I don't think that Jimmy Savile was a different religion. Hell, he could have been atheist. So there happens to be a cultural problem, and the term grooming gangs is tied in with it. But when you think of some other people, it could just be fellow travelers who have a predilection, if you will.
Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of focus on one particular group. But what happens is that focus on these particular groups keeps the focus away from other groups such as politicians or people that are kind of, if we're going to shine the light on anybody, let it not be us, let it be them. So, as much as they're not saying the word, they are kind of saying, yeah, it's that kind of person, not us.
Now, we're not saying that it is not happening, and it is definitely a problem with certain groups. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it is.
But the key thing is to focus on everyone who is doing said crime.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
As much as possible. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. Yes, it is happening amongst these groups, but yeah, everybody. Don't think because they're a particular group or not a particular group that they are, excluded. Keep your eye on the ball. There's a lot of people involved in this.
A call for mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse. I'd called for that a decade ago.
So I called for it a decade ago, but what has he done about it since? Because, I mean, basically, me and you, Eric, we could call for income tax to be, kind of abolished, but, if that's all we're going to do, then that's basically just a superficial kind of, look at me, I did something.
Well, and I'm curious because if I'm going to defend his position that he called for this a decade ago when he was the senior prosecutor, one could argue that he didn't have the full power in hand to make it happen. I wonder if there's anybody in England or Great Britain who might have the power to make that happen. That thing that he called for a decade ago. Is there, Gavin, is there any position or any individual in England who has the power to push that forward, to make that happen?
Yeah, there's a few, but one in particular that is in that very close-knit circle of friends that we previously mentioned has a lot of sway and could certainly speed or expedite the whole thing happening, So yeah,
we might be listening to him right now.
Yeah, it could have done a hell of a lot more,
and can right now.
Exactly.
The point. What is Elon Musk saying? He's saying, "Do it now."
Yeah.
You guy in charge of it all. You do it now. Or am I misinterpreting?
No, because that's exactly what he should be doing. Before, where he could go and say, well, I'm going to put this and see if it goes up the chain to the Prime Minister. Now he's the Prime Minister. So when he says, I called for this a decade ago and it didn't happen, well, now he's in a position to make it happen. So why isn't he doing it? Why hasn't he got it signed off, done, deal sorted, and put to bed?
Because those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible.
Where's the lie? Where's the misinformation?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with this one. So he's saying those who are spreading lies and misinformation, yet he's not at any point turned around and said this particular sentence, claim, accusation is a lie, and here's why. And here he is himself, literally pretty much lying to the general public by saying, I called for this a decade ago. I wanted this change. People have been let down and not helped out by the system that I was in charge of at the time of them needing it, blah, blah, blah. It's all a great big mess. So either he's not wanting to deal with lies or he is, but as for the lies and misinformation by others, why is it fine for him to give lies and misinformation? But Elon Musk, the minute he says anything, makes an accusation, makes a statement, makes a claim or anything else, all of a sudden it's lies and misinformation. Really? Because it's coming from someone else?
They're not interested in victims. They're interested in
Themselves.
Yeah.
I'll finish the word.
So if they're not interested in victims and these victims that haven't been heard by your system, what exactly is being done, Keir? And I'm just going to reinforce what we've said here a little bit. He's gone on about how he's called for change, how he's tackled everything head on, how he's worked so hard in doing so much about this. But what is actually happening in the victims that you're saying that other people aren't interested in? How are they being helped by you? How are you any different to all the other people on X or anywhere else that's calling for something to be done about this? Because I don't think you're interested in the victims, and I think they actually are more interested in the victims and having something done and stopping themselves and their families being future victims. So, big argument there, in my opinion.
interested in justice. They're supporting a man who went to prison for nearly collapsing a grooming case, a gang grooming case.
Okay, I think another name just popped into the conversation. I'm making an assumption that he's talking about Tommy Robinson.
He is, yeah. And what he's doing now, and again, he's shifting things from Elon Musk to Tommy Robinson, is shifting things from him to Tommy Robinson. This is kind of, don't look at me, look at him. Don't concentrate on my failures and my shortcomings. Look at Tommy Robinson and what he's done and what he's doing. And he's trying to get everybody into a category of, if you agree with Elon Musk, then in that case, you must agree with Tommy Robinson too. And whether you do or you don't, there's a big division in the UK between people who do and don't agree with Tommy Robinson, his actions and the things he's done. So by dividing that, you've divided the numbers even more. So all the 50% that don't agree, all of a sudden say, yes, I don't want to be in that category of agreeing with Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk. So he's he's going down the route of diluting the whole thing here now, because he's putting them in that same category, that same box, and therefore people go, I see where he's coming from. I don't want to be one of those.
These are people who are trying to get some kind of vicarious thrill from street violence that people like Tommy Robinson.
They're trying to get some kind of precarious thrill from what is the thrill that is going on? I'm trying to understand what thrill Elon Musk is getting picking a fight with a prime minister of a country where he has a product, and this country could potentially ban his product. It could cost him a lot of money. Not only that product, I mean, Elon Musk sells a lot of things. He is potentially taking a pretty large risk, in my opinion, with one of the largest markets in the world. You guys, you buy a lot of stuff and have a lot of sway.
Yeah, for a tiny island, we've still got one of the strongest currencies in the world, and and we do consume a lot, and we do spend a lot. So it wouldn't make any sense at all to kind of cut that kind of market out if you're a world leader in products and development and everything else that literally this little island will not only want to get involved with, want to spend a lot of money with doing as well. So I don't think there's a thrill involved here as much as there is a fact that he does want some justice and something done about this entire situation that seems to be getting ignored and swept under the rug. He's listened to a lot of the people that are really unhappy about this entire situation and a lot of the way things are going in the UK, and he's voiced that opinion online, using his platform for that voice to be heard, and Keir Starmer's trying to now play it down and make him look like he's just thrill-seeking. I'm not. I don't know what Elon Musk's intentions are because I'm not Elon Musk and I don't spend any time with him. But
nobody really does. He's capricious as hell, to be honest.
That's true. But I don't think he's doing this because he's bored. He's got rockets to play with and electric cars to blow up. He's got all sorts of things to set on fire or buy or sell or whatever else.
Video games to play and memes to put out.
Exactly. Chips to build to put in people's heads, all sorts of things. He's got lots going on. So I don't think he's bored, and I don't think he's playing a game of, what shall I do today? Let's see if I can piss off the UK Prime Minister. And
you're selling yourself short with your little island, Gavin, because I think they're saying a thing called Commonwealth countries.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, but they do stretch reasonably far. Apparently, around about a sixth of the planet, is it?
No, something like that. Was it the former British Empire that the sun never sets on?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, back when Lady Britannia was in charge. And I'm not going to say whether things were better or worse back then, but better for some, worse for others.
Just as I took on the criminal justice system and the institutions when I was chief prosecutor, I'm prepared to call out this for what it is. We've seen this playbook many times, whipping up of intimidation and threats of violence, hoping that the media will amplify it. Jess Phillips does not need me or anybody else to speak on her behalf. But when the poison of the far right leads to serious threats to Jess Phillips and others, then in my book, a line has been crossed.
Okay, so just so I understand, Gavin, he has said that there was a problem as a prosecutor. He looked into the problem, nothing was done. And now, though, I guess somebody hit a wand, and so the problem that he knew about and he fought against or railed against, supposedly, I guess it disappeared. Well, it's no longer a problem because, according to him right now, the only problem is people criticizing the actions of not dealing with the problem that he did say exists. Help me understand, Gavin. Am I misinterpreting what he's saying in this? And by the way, I don't think this is going to even be called a body language video. We haven't done a squat with body language. This is just, I guess, an analysis or I don't know, a breakdown.
Yeah, I suppose it's a breakdown really of what's going on, and so we've taken more into account really because we can look at body language if need be, but with a lot of this, there's actually no need to because we can just analyze what's been said, look at facts, look at actions, look at changes, look at all the different things that are actually happening physically, and say, well, hang on a minute, none of this is adding up. You say, that here are all these victims that have been let down by a system that you were the one running at the time that they were let down. Then you're saying, you're now going to, fix this problem that apparently doesn't exist, but did exist back when you were there. You tackled it head on, and now all of a sudden, you're prime minister, so not your department, not your problem, and it's not an issue anymore. And other people getting involved should keep their nose out. So,
and they're mean.
Yeah,
they're mean.
Mean tweets.
We should arrest them. Oh wait, that's another of your problems.
Oh yeah, that's just getting so out of hand here. It's untrue.
Would you recommend that Elon Musk vacation in England anytime soon?
Ooh, I wouldn't say it should be top of his destination list, but that being said, the weather's dreadful here, so.
Oh God.
I enjoy the cut and thrust of politics, the robust debate that we must have. But that's got to be based on facts and truth, not on lies, not on those who are so desperate for attention that they're prepared to debase themselves and their country. So this government will get on with the job of protecting victims including child sexual abuse, mandatory reporting, accelerating the processes. But what I won't tolerate is this discussion and debate based on lies without calling it out. What I won't tolerate is politicians jumping on the bandwagon simply to get attention, when those politicians sat in government for 14 long years, tweeting, talking, but not doing anything about it. Now so desperate for attention that they're amplifying what the far right.
I didn't know Elon Musk was a politician.
No. And apparently
I
he's
think that's what
desperate
he
for
just
attention
said.
too.
And then he said for 14 years. I'm confused about, he said, I mean, the times, the dates are all mixed up because the 14 years sounds like him, but then he's talking about kind of putting on Elon.
Mm-hmm.
And Elon's not a politician. So Gavin, help me understand. Who, what, how?
Towards the end of that, I was like, hang on a minute, where are we going with this and who exactly are you talking about? Because, he's going on about Elon Musk and about his tweets. Then he turns around and says, people who are that desperate for attention that they've got to, do this thing based on lies. I'm thinking, I don't think Elon Musk is that desperate for attention. And of course, he goes on about like kind of this whole, we've got to have this debate, but I'm not going to do it based on lies. He wants to do it only based on facts. And we just looked at some of the facts. And to be fair, Keir Starmer, the facts aren't actually in your favour too well.
Before we got on the air, you were telling me that in England, you guys are kind of trying to do some things, allegedly, like here in America, we have something called an Amber Alert. Now, the Amber Alert is a mixed bag. The intentions of the Amber Alert are great. It was a horrible crime, and it's a great idea to alert people right away. Hey, somebody just got abducted. Something happened. Look near you. It's not sometimes the implementation can be a problem, and I want to acknowledge that ahead of time because the Amber Alerts tend to be a very wide net in terms of if you're in a particular city and something happened, there'll be an Amber Alert. But that Amber Alert seems to alert people who are hundreds of miles away, all at the same time, where technically, no matter how skilled the perpetrator is, they're not going to be able to travel in a few moments, several hundred miles away, which I think causes people to go, oh, that's nowhere near me. And after getting enough alerts saying, oh, that's 2 cities over, or that's the next state over. And every time they look down, so they just start going, oh, and then they just shut it off and they actually don't look. It can be counterintuitive, but the principle's there. I don't think you need to get rid of the program. I think you need to fix the program to make it better. Apparently, you guys have started that over there.
Yeah. So, and again, I will say here that I do agree with the concept in principle. It is a fantastic idea. If a kid gets taken from a particular area and every single cell phone gets an alert, usually within a particular radius, and yes, they do extend that quite extensively with that radius, and that's based on the fact that not everybody then and there is going to look at their phones and read it straight away, but it does. They figure out that within a particular time limit, and everybody will have responded, read it, and at least be aware that they might turn around and say a man of this description with this vehicle with this license plate has taken a kid with this description and could be in your area. Blah blah blah. Please keep a lookout. So, brilliant idea, brilliant concept. Yes, they're doing the same thing over here in the UK. And it's like kind of all backed up by the government through all the cell phone providers here and whatever else. And what a lot of people don't realise about the company that provides this service, and it is a private company, not a government entity, is that it's owned by the sister of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Time for a sad trombone sound effect. Wah, wah.
Yeah. So basically the person whose sister is in charge of sex trafficking children, in prison for it, is the one in charge of reporting or deciding which missing children gets reported on the Amber Alert system.
Not to be dark, I guess that might help them recognize it better. Sorry. I can't help myself, but this is a giant issue. Obviously, Gavin and I have a viewpoint. We're not really hiding the ball. We are in alignment on this particular thing with the questioning of Elon Musk. We do feel that there are questions. These need to be answered. Well, I don't personally feel that Keir Starmer answered these questions. I felt that was a very evasive performance, but it's not about me. It's not about Gavin. I really do want to hear from you. And I especially want to hear from you if you think that, we're off base, if you think that, no, this is all in Elon Musk's imagination. We want to know if you can, especially if you can provide some proof and some evidence. Keir Starmer said that these are lies and disinformation. So if you have some links, some proof about lies and disinformation, please share. I am always receptive to the other side. I do want to hear that, and I believe you are too as well, Gavin.
Yeah, by all means, get in touch with me. I'm quite happy to hear from anybody. And whether that's to prove me right or prove me wrong. I like to be as objective as I can with everything. I don't know everything, so therefore, if somebody says, "Well, hang on, did you know this or did you realise that?" I can then take that into account. I don't look at somebody approaching me with new information as being a bad or negative thing. I'm quite happy to take it on board.
Yes, and I do read the comments. I may not reply to all of them because there can be a lot, but I do read them, and we do respond to them. We have before, and I want to hear from you. And of course, the pitch. You've made it through almost an hour. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing. We will be doing some more videos. One of them coming up will be taking it to this side of the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
We will be covering a former chief in the New York City Police Department that appears to have a habit of covering his peccadillos by paying overtime. And he did a press conference. This one, I think, will probably have some more body language analysis. So consider, if you want to see that, I hope you subscribe. I hope you comment, and please share with a friend. And until next time, have a wonderful day.